Hi, I'm Annie Fitzsimmons. I'm your Washington REALTORS Legal Hotline Lawyer, and this is another episode in our series entitled Operation Evolve. And in this episode, we are discussing the critical importance of you having an agency agreement signed with your client in every transaction. So effective January 1st, 2024, there is no discretion involved. You must enter an agency agreement with your client, whether your client is the buyer or the seller. And if you fail to enter an agency agreement with your client, you may not be compensated. And when I say you, I really mean the agent representing the party may not be compensated. So think through that for a minute. Who is the agent, the first agent of the consumer? The consumer has an agency agreement with your firm. And then your firm appoints you as an agent, a sub-agent, to represent the consumer. So brokers, if after January 1st, 2024, you don't have an agency agreement, a written agency agreement with your client, whether it's the seller or the buyer, or if you're a dual agent, then both. If you don't have a written agency agreement with your client after January 1st, 2024, your firm may not receive compensation in that transaction. There's no wiggle room. There's no way around it. There's no gray area. It is black and white. No agency agreement, no compensation. That seems like a pretty simple rule. It is pretty straightforward. And after January 1st, it's going to be really understandable to implement. But we do have this time period prior to January 1st where you might have to think through a transaction a little bit. What if, for example, you're representing a buyer without a buyer agency agreement who enters a purchase and sale agreement on December 1st, 2023. And that transaction is scheduled to close January 15th, 2024. You may not have had a buyer agency agreement in 2023 with that buyer, and you could still be compliant with the law. But since that transaction is closing in 2024, you may not receive compensation in that transaction unless you have a buyer agency agreement in that transaction that closes in 2024. That means that sometime between December 1st, when the buyer entered the purchase and sale agreement, and January 15th, when it closes, you must enter a buyer agency agreement with your buyer. There's nothing more complicated about it than that. No agency agreement with your client, no compensation. If you have questions on this or any other topic, please ask me a question by visiting warealtor.org. Thank you for being a Washington REALTORS member.